All right, welcome everybody to Diva Dads episode 5.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
We have certainly a little bit of different setup today. We've got our guests right away instead of bringing them in. We'll intro them in just a moment. I just wanted to thank everyone. We've been watching the views and seeing that everyone's kind of catching on to what we're doing and having fun with us, and we really appreciate your support and especially supporting the theater and our mission. So take it away, Rodney.
All right, so our special guest this week is Dustin Kemp and Tyler Lewis. You may have seen, well, you probably didn't see Dustin too much during Little Shop, which was hilarious standing in line with him each show, because people would come up and say, I want your job because you just lay on the stage and drink, whatever. And I'm like, dude, he's the voice of the plant. He's like, never mind, just let him. So Dustin was the voice of the plant for Little Shop of Horrors. So that was his first foray on the TTC stage, but we'll talk more about his experience on other stage. And you have seen Tyler Lewis in all kinds of roles, probably most prominently as Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show. And then they both have prominent roles in Tuck Everlasting, which is one of our next shows. So welcome, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to be here.
I would like to also acknowledge that Tyler Lewis is the vocalist and co-writer of our theme song.
Yes, he is.
And I would love to hear just a teensy bit of that live.
Let's see if I can remember the words, even though I wrote it. You know we're Diva Dads. They got the groove on. They're Diva Dads. They know just what to say because they're Diva Dads. You can trust them in the middle age. Whoa, they're Diva Dads.
Yes.
Very good.
Awesome.
Right.
Still not
How's
sure
everyone
if I
doing?
approve of that middle-aged comment, but that's okay.
That line can be attributed to Tyler, so. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Good week. Got to go up to the theater. I got to see Paul early. Hadn't seen him probably since the bike trip. So, yeah.
Doing for I'm so. Could be better, could be worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about that more later.
We will. Okay, so we're going to segue into just some really quick Broadway news, and Tyler might want to even chime in on some of this stuff. So we all know Leah Michele got her start in Les Mis like years and years ago. She was also in the original cast of Spring Awakening. She's been trying desperately to get back on Broadway in like Wicked. She's trying to do Funny Girl, all these things. Well, a previous Glee actress, Samantha Ware, came out with some very hefty accusations about what it was like to work with Leah Michele back in the day. Turns out that it wasn't just Samantha. A whole bunch of her cast members have come out to talk about how difficult she was to work with. It's a good lesson. It doesn't matter how damn talented you are. Be nice. Just be nice. Be nice to people, and your life will be so much easier. And in 10 years, when you're famous, people won't come trying to drag you down on Twitter because you were a jerk. Oh, wow.
Got that, Rodney?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Eva Bird.
Burn.
The other thing, and obviously we're going to talk about this later, but there's a lot going on in this world right now. And being that we are a theater that is a house, a home, a family to all sorts of people, Broadway is a similar type of environment that is, something that is meant to be a home towards everyone, no matter what race, no matter what sexuality, no matter who you are, it's supposed to be your home. So given the recent events, a lot of Broadway organizations and Broadway as a whole is kind of getting some backlash for not talking, because, with this world as it is, not talking is a problem. It's now become a problem to not talk about what's going on. So there have been some shows where diversity is really important to the production as a whole. Hamilton, Hadestown, Six is another one that have been very vocal of like, yeah, course, hi, look who our people are, look who our writers are. That's who we're here for. There was one silly one, Wicked, who tweeted out a photo of, you know, a white hand and a green hand saying like, yay, love each other or whatever. But they were recently outed for recycling that photo from like an anti-bullying campaign in 2016. So like,
Oh man.
no, that doesn't quite work for us now. But also, and this is something that I'd love for everyone to just Google, now that, hi, big spotlight on all these problems, people are coming out and talking about, you know, shows and experiences that they've had, specifically the show of Frozen. Before it was a Broadway musical, it was a show that was put on, kind of almost a Frozen Junior type show, was put on at Disneyland. And one of the actors that played Hans, Cooper Howell is his name, has come out and talked about how joining the show and the initial director was this beautiful experience because, yes, let's all bring on the love. Let's celebrate these characters no matter what you look like. But then there was a real heavy shift when another director came in. And so he's getting to, I mean, tell all the tea about that type of experience. Who watched Glee?
I watched Glee.
A little bit.
Who's taking just like a teensy bit of pleasure watching what's happening to poor Leah Michelle?
They're coming for her on Twitter. Yeah. Amber Riley. Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Her tea sipping.
Alex Knoll spoke out about it too.
Yeah. She's to me a voice of a generation. She's just one of the most ridiculously talented voices I've ever heard. And so it's so disappointing when it's like, you can be as talented as you want to be, but don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
That's
You were talking about the productions kind of either backing or not backing their actors, and this is kind of a Diva Dad tie-in because John Boyega spoke out in London, and he even said, I may lose my job, I may not be able to get a job or whatever. And the Hollywood community has really kind of stepped up and backed him up. And there's, you know, lots of tweets from directors and production companies and Star Wars themselves, the company, like the entity within the entity of Disney, you know, came out and said, no, we definitely support what you're saying, and you don't have to worry about losing a job for speaking your truth. So that's pretty awesome.
I'm excited for all of those statements and all of this outward vocalization of support. What's going to be interesting is watching it a year from now, where the actions are. Is anything going to change? Are, you know, our movies, casting, whatever, you know, are we going to change as a theater? What are we going to do? You know, it'll be interesting to see of when the talking stops and when action starts.
Right.
Definitely.
So for that, we need a drink, Rodney.
It's time for a cocktail. We need some music for this. It's just a hint since we have some musicians on.
Oh, I just let everyone else write the music for my show.
Well, Dana, you have all those guitars in the back. Why don't you do
I
that?
think they're only used when Brandon comes over.
So you ain't a real musician, is what I hear.
Is that a burn?
Okay, darling.
Uh-oh.
Oh my, oh my.
We have cocktail this evening. It's going to be fabulous because we have some fabulous guests today. I was inspired. And I'm going to call this the Diva Shock Doo 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 Diva Shock Doo Doo. Anyway. All right, so we're going to have ice. It gets ridiculous in here, guys. Dropping ice on the floor. All right, so I'm going to make a double because it's
almost Friday.
I want to. All right, so you're going to start. Since I'm making a double, I'm going to start with 3 ounces of spiced rum. This is Sailor Jerry's. It's delicious.
What's wrong with Captain Morgan? We don't like him anymore?
What's wrong with Palms? It's $3 cheaper.
Taylor Jerry? I've never heard of him.
You know, we'll talk about it later. Okay. And then you're going to add some blue Curaçao. This is actually called a snake bite. No, not snake bite. That's a different drink. Shark bite. Shark bite. So that's why I changed it to Diva bite. So ounce and a half. Remember, I am doubling this, so you know.
Rodney, is it Diva Shark or Diva Bite?
Diva bite. What did I do? Oh,
You
I
said Diva Shark.
A shark, do 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 do. I don't know what this dance move. I thought the shark was here.
Oh man.
And you talk with sweet and sour.
He's about to triple it.
Is he even measured at this point?
You really need to measure sweet and sour. It's just what you put on top, Mike. All right. So then you take your spoon because you want your grenadine to go to the bottom.
Oh, like blood. Very
Like I
nice.
said, shark bite.
This took a turn.
Yeah. At least it's not milk.
You know, why don't we change this cocktail's name to Mike Bite Me? All right. And there you go is your Diva Shark Bite.
Cheers.
Very nice, sir.
I should probably stir it. That's all sweet and sour at the top. Okay, we're ready. We're good.
So I
Actually,
just want to point out real quick that Maddie, last week, it was my birthday. She came by very late in the evening and brought me Jameson Black Barrel, which is my absolute favorite whiskey. And I just wanted to thank her publicly instead of just, hey, thanks. She's a great kid. Love. She's amazing.
We have another birthday today, don't we?
We do. Who is that, Rodney?
Haley Zavadny.
Haley!
Yay,
Happy birthday.
Birthday. I would have preferred that than the Marcus birthday I got. Maybe.
Y'all, he didn't know who Marilyn Monroe was. I'm not kidding. I think, what did he just ended up doing, a baby voice? I don't really know. We did film it, but yikes. Hey, look. There she is. So normally, you know, what we do is there's all sorts of, you know, segments that we kind of go into, and then we intro the guests. And this one's going to be a little bit different because obviously you guys are here with us from the beginning, so we wanted to say hi and keep you on. But we've got a lot of questions for you, but just because we've got both of you here, which we're so excited to have, we want this to be more free flowing. So we do have questions, but if we get off somewhere, we want to keep talking. Like we want to hear from you and hear what you guys have to say. And I'm excited for this conversation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will kick it off with one of our questions from, we probably need to name her as like a special correspondent because she's always comes in like a clutch with great questions. So this is Miss Shannon Van Zant, and she would be interested in hearing about you gentlemen's experience of discrimination, especially but not exclusively related to performing theater, to the extent that you're willing to share.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Tyler, you want to start?
Sure. I would say that in terms of my discrimination as a performer, it's more so less about race and more about what we call type, because it's difficult for a gay man in makeup to show up to an audition and be seen in a different light other than that. So I would say that's the biggest thing, and not only that, but like, because I've talked to friends who are a part of the theater community, and it's always been very. I've been compared to like Alex Newell, and we've had the discussions of, but I'm more than that. And not that what he is or whatever is a bad thing, but it's like I bring more to the table than just, you know, having a high voice and wearing makeup and, you know, sometimes presenting female, although that's not the intention. And so that's been the most difficult thing, is having people be able to differentiate the aesthetic from the person, which has been a struggle. And I talk about it all the time.
To kind of piggyback off of what Tyler said, especially being Black, being queer, like there's a type that is I would say is more accepted than the other. And I don't go off on a tangent, but I will say that for me, not so much theater, but just in performance in general, I think that I've always had to kind of dumb my talent down because if I walk into an audition or my band was somewhere, it was always as if I thought I was better than someone else, just for me being who I am. I'm flashy, when I was on stage, I was flashy and I was just kind of over the top, but that's just what I knew, and I felt like, some of my inspirations are Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Prince. And so I wanted to be like them, and they were over the top. And so in Austin, because the music scene it can be real cliquey. I think that I was always seen as the guy who thought he was all that or doing too much. And so there was always this silent competition between me, even within my bandmates. That's a whole other story that we can talk about some other time. But I just felt like I had to dumb my talent down because it seemed like others either didn't want to rise to the occasion or thought I was doing too much,
I think it's interesting that you say that because I've actually had that happen to me before as well with two friends. Actually, one is of color and one is white, and they have both asked me on numerous occasions to like perform with them or do like projects with them, but I have to do it within a limit in terms of my vocal ability and agility, so that, and these are their words, not mine, so that their friends wouldn't talk about me more than they would talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because as performers are encouraged to have confidence and encouraged to have presence. And so it's so counterintuitive that you felt the opposite, because normally, I'm thinking about these kids that we're working with at the theater every week. We want them to have presence and have confidence and stand up and say, hey, I'm here and I have something to show you, something to say. It's disappointing to hear that is being actively discouraged.
Very
That's
much so.
Follow-up question.
Yeah, so follow-up question is how does performing or just being on the stage help you cope with some of those things that you receive as far as the discrimination or other instances like that?
I would say for me, and this is not a positive thing, it actually it doesn't help cope, but it helps to mask. Because in that moment, I'm not myself. I get to be someone else. And so it's like I don't have to deal with those issues or comments or whatever directly, because it's not Tyler up there. It's Frank or Issachar or whomever I may be playing at the time. So yeah, I haven't come to that place in my life where I've been able to use theater or performing to cope necessarily, but I've used it more in terms to like hide and mask, because once you come off the stage, you're back to who you are, and those issues are still there. And it's unfortunate that that's the case, but it is what it is.
Man. That just hit me really hard, because so a lot of my experience, not so, I've talked to y'all about my background. It's not so much in the theater than it is in, music performance. And when I got on stage, I could have, we don't have enough time in the day, child, to tell y'all about the things I would endure before I hit the stage. But when I hit the stage, it was all smiles, whipping my hair. But when I got off the stage, it was over. On stage, I could forget the horrible things that were said to me. I recall, just today, I was thinking about, I'm not going to be shady, but there's a person who lives in Bryan College Station. When I was in college, I was in Century Singers, and we had a showcase, and this person whispered to our director that I looked like Mr. Bojangles. And if you know anything about Mr. Bojangles was like a butler type, and during but this person is a pretty established individual, in the Bryan College Station community, and he treats me really well, but he probably doesn't even remember that he said that, and it stuck with me. It stuck with me for years and years, and I was just I was talking to one of my friends today, and he reminded me of that. And I remember when he whispered to the director that I like Mr. Bojangles, I still had to go on stage and perform at the showcase, and I had to put that out of my mind. So for about 3 minutes, I didn't think about that, but when I got off stage, I remembered that, and I remembered the hurt. So Tyler is right. It's not necessarily a positive thing all the time. I get on stage sometimes to be someone else, you know. Sometimes I get on stage to wear that mask. Yeah, I completely agree.
Are there roles that maybe not so much as a mask, but help you kind of work through certain things? Like, I mean, specifically, Dana, I'm thinking about you and Mamma Mia. Like, I felt that you worked through stuff and thought through stuff because of the role that you played. Do y'all have any of those that you can think of?
I'll tell you. We haven't even done it yet, but so Time with Angus Tuck, I can't even make it through the part where left to drown in my prime, or like this big harmony. I cry every single time because I think about the time that we've all been granted, you know. And I said this when we first started, you know, the casting and reading the scripts for Tuck Everlasting. This piece, this musical is so important, and it's so timely because we've been granted a certain amount of time, and I want to spend the rest of my days living, you know, in that moment and being and cherishing others. So I think getting to know Angus Tuck has been the best thing for me, especially during this pandemic, you know, when all I have really is time sitting here at the house. But I would say getting to know Angus Tuck and really trying to establish his character and build his character it's been monumental for me, because I never played a daddy role before, you know. So I'm coming into my, you know, paternal instincts, but it's wonderful for me. Yeah.
Perfect timing to join this podcast.
I think for me, Frank was that, because he is so confident, and he just the world is his, and we all just live in it. And so to have not once but twice to be in a role where, you know, the world was mine and everybody else just lived in it was great. And, you know, a lot of the times people think that's the case for me as an individual anyways, just because of the way I carry myself and my confidence, but that's not, I won't say it's a facade, but it's not very that at all for me. But to kind of go off of what Dustin said, the Tom Quartet is my favorite song in Tuck Everlasting. And so the line that Angus says about, I look forward to you every day, every year, is something that I hope that, you know, others, especially in the theater community, will say to me one day, with the talents that I bring to the table, of like, we look forward to you. You have something special that, you know, you bring and have brought to the table that no one else in this world can take away. So
yeah, can I just say, like, I love that you used Frank as your example. The way that you own that was like, it was very, I don't even know what the word is, but when you turned around that last time and you turned around and looked at us before that last hold it for like a minute and a half, and you said, breathe, bitches. I was like, you got it. Like, whatever you want. So I can't speak for everyone, but I can say that, yes, you have already had that impact on me, that I'm like, I will go blue in the face holding that note as long as I can for you. Like, yeah, I don't want to get all, but man.
Well said.
Both
well said.
Man.
Hey.
Wow, it's my question though. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit, because I have been privy to the Sedity biscuits that were cooked at my home. They are fantastic. Miss Catherine Thomas wants to know, what is your favorite thing to bake?
Oh man. So I bake these cookies. They're called Sweeties. They're native to Lake Jackson, Texas, home of the Mosquito Festival. But they're essentially they're very, it's super soft. They're almond cookies, and they're pink. they're traditionally pink, and I bake those. I have a tube of dough that I made from earlier this week. I make those all the time. They're my comfort cookie. So it's my favorite thing to bake. I got you.
Unfortunately, you don't live all that far, so.
I just wanted to make it very clear that I've asked Dustin to bake for me on multiple accounts. Let's just say it has.
Hold on, because we don't want to duel on here. So let me tell you about my love for Tyler. First of all, like I just texted him and he ain't even respond. So we'll talk about that later. But very shady. But it's a pandemic. I'm gonna bake for you, Tyler. I never know when you're in Navasota or in Austin, so I can't just guess. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make a whole cake and you're not gonna be able to eat it. So work on that, okay?
Tyler, do you bake?
Here. I'm around the corner.
I don't bake. I used to like baking, but why not have other people?
No. Let me. Tyler bakes. He sets that face. Let me tell you. Let's be clear. He bakes. Okay. Okay. He bakes. Let's be very clear. I watched Tyler. I watched him. I watched Tyler on Facebook. Like, he did a good job.
Rodney also tunes in for those makeup tutorials sometimes.
I do. I'm still waiting for the one that I requested, by the way.
You are correct.
Well, now we making a list for him that he hasn't answered a text. He still hasn't done a video. Oh no, it's not. I'm not shading. I'm just love you, Tyler.
All right, I have a question for Tyler and a question for Dustin, but since we're on the topic, I'm going to go talk to Tyler first. So you mentioned what you are referring to now is a facade of your presence, your confidence, who you are, and I'm going to echo Dana with you as Frankenfurter and Rocky Horror was hella inspiring as a woman because you wore things in heels that I'm like I could never. But I want to know, like, growing up, like, when did Tyler Lewis become Tyler Lewis and like who you are today?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So I would say that who I am today, it was a journey. So growing up, I was the normal boy, whatever you want to call it. Played sports. I played football up until sophomore year of high school, and that's when I discovered that I wasn't going to go to the NFL. Was I good enough? Maybe so, but I wanted to be a performer, honey. And so that was out there. Also, fun fact, I was a power lifter. Yes, me. But I started seeing, it was my freshman year of college at Sam Houston when I was a theater education major. And I started seeing, the Patrick Stars of the world, and at the time, Jeffree Star, and Mac Daddy, Angel Marino, and all of those people. And I was like, I'm here for this. Whatever this is, whatever this means, is something that, I'm interested in doing. And then it became an entity of its own. Whenever I look like this, I've called it my alter ego, which is Ray. For those who don't know, that's my middle name. And so when I'm like, I call it getting dressed up is what I call it. And so I'm like, when I'm dressed up, honey, Ray is here. But that journey, it took a lot because you have to understand that now it's a little more acceptable, but to be a man in makeup and to go shopping in the Forever 21's women's plus size section, all of that was it was crazy. The first time I went shopping it was a time. Because that's like, I used to wear makeup and beard, like, who let me do that? But yeah, it was a journey in having open and honest conversations with people about who I am, what this means, and being questioned about, well, are you transitioning? Do you want to be trans? Do you want to be a woman? This, that, and the third. And it's like, why can't I just be, pardon my language, a pretty bitch and not just be that? And so that's where we are now. We're a pretty bitch.
You grew up in Navasota, yes?
Yes, in small town Navasota, Texas.
And that's that was what I am so amazed by. I mean, the strength that you have to say, this is where I live, but I'm gonna be me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I attribute that to my upbringing. Like my mom, grandparents, all of that have always encouraged me to be my own person and to do what makes me happy. And so to say, I'm from Navasota or I went to A&M and this is what I look like has been, people were really shook by that. They're like, how is that possible? But it's literally, I've always been encouraged to do that. But make no mistake, there were issues of what is this? What's going on? You can't be putting that on social media, being in makeup and all that. That's been a thing as well. But because I've already been instilled to, or been encouraged to do what I want, then I'm very so like, your problem with my social media is not my problem.
Beautiful.
Well said.
Dustin, okay, so something that we found out pretty quickly is that you and I almost overlapped in college. Like we were there for a while at the same time. So you've been in College Station for, tell me how long?
So I came to College Station in 2003 and I left in 2008. And then I came back in 2015. So yeah, we were rolling around each other. As a matter of fact, when you lived close to College Main, I was living on Orange Circle, so I was very close to. And then Megan, who did my tattoo, yes, listen, we are connected.
But my question for you is, so you just confirmed that you've lived here since 2003. I get it. You left for a while.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you only auditioned for the theater company in 2020?
Child, listen, when I was, stop, Tyler. When
You were in Navasota, so.
When I was here, I was in Century Singers, and I ran track the first semester of my freshman year at A&M. I was trying to be in everything. I was in Apotheosis. I was, I didn't really. I think for one, there was a little bit of fear about branching out to do. I did theater in high school, Little Shop of Horrors, and I got my redemption. That's a long story, but just know that I got cheated out for Audrey 2. And George Prince, I still got beef with you, bro.
Tell the team.
But and so I took the singing route. Actually, I got kicked off the track team because I was in too many singing organizations, and the track coach, the hurdle coach at the time was like, it's either singing or track, take your pick. And I was like, bye, like, see you, like, I'm done. So I was involved in a lot of music, and then I was in a fraternity. I am in a fraternity, but we were very busy. So I wish I knew that the theater company existed, like, but I didn't know, how to get involved, really. So that's my excuse.
I too knew the theater company existed. Fun fact, I used to go to the theater company. We would go on school field trips when I was in like 6th grade to the theater company.
What the hell took you so long?
Well, Sam Houston wasn't the best theater experience for me. And so I decided that I was done. But
What?
here
Can I ask about Sam Houston?
Yeah. So ultimately, the program is not designed for people of color, if we're just going to be completely frank and honest. I feel like they don't have, I guess, the understanding, the faculty. I'm not sure what it is, what they lack, but there's only a select few that were, especially in the musical theater program, there were a handful, which is nothing new there. But to be in a program where you weren't really nurtured like others were, and to have all this fresh new talent come in, especially at the time, my sophomore year, the freshman class, and to see so many talented faces just continue to get overlooked because they had, their favorites or their staples who have been in programs or been leads in shows since their freshman year, and that they were in a lead every semester. And so then, they go off to New York and do nothing. And so it's like, the time away from the stage is where you really develop and hone in on your talent. And so if you're constantly in a show as a lead, you don't really have that time to nurture that. And so that's where you have all these fresh faces and all these new talents that you can really make something out of. And they didn't really use that to their advantage. And then going in, when I did audition for the musical theater program, and not saying that I was a shoo-in, but to get a rejection letter and then we reach out and be like, okay, like what like feedback, what could I have done, what was I missing, and then to get silence on, you know, the ends of the department head and the head of the musical theater department. And then to see them in person, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, I need to email you back. And then we email them again and be like, hey, you know, you said you're gonna email me, what's up? And then to hear nothing, I was like, yeah, it's just time for me to go. Like, yeah. I can't be in a situation where, you know, the Black and brown kids are not cared for like the others.
Well, regardless of how long it took you guys, I'm very glad that you both found us eventually.
Glad to be here.
Have you guys found it difficult, or what is the most difficult thing about joining our little theater community, the TTC theater community? This is actually a question from Brittany Green. So,
go ahead, Dustin. I'll let you have it.
I would say it's just getting to know people. So let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all a little story. He know. So there's this, okay, with Black men in theater, you know, sometimes, especially, a lot of times you think that you're going to be the only one. So see, I walk into this audition for a Little Shop of Horrors and I see this another Black guy and I was like, I remember him. And so Dustin walks over towards the Black guy. Hi, how are you doing? You know, he's like, I'm fine. Just the coldest shade, y'all. Woo, the coldest. Drink that tea. The coldest shade. So I was like, you know, and so I when he sang, I said, oh, you sounded really good. Thank you so much. I said, well, there's that. But no, you know, but it's just, I think we were both like trying to figure out each other's powers or superpowers. It's just like, you know, he can squall, you know, and so we're sizing each other up. I think that's what it is. It's getting to know people and breaking that shell and just kind of, I think that the person who was probably the most like in my face, she's like, you're gonna get to know me, was Brittany. Brittany was like, you're gonna get to know me, so yes, it's me in your face, you know. And so she was really Brittany Green was the first person in the theater that we walked out to our cars together. And I was like, and she said, oh yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. And she was right. She was absolutely right. But yeah, I think it was getting to know people. But after the Band-Aid ripped off, like, you know, I talked to Dana at length, and then I came to Workday, and I talked to Rodney, and it was really organic. You know, I didn't have to force anything. That was the beautiful thing. So it was, in the beginning, it was difficult. But when I tell you it's not forced, no one in the theater is like, hi, Dustin. You know, it's everyone's just like, what's up? You know, I'd walk into the dressing room and Rodney, the tastiest music ever in life, you know, and so y'all made my experience, you know, just so inviting. So it was difficult in the beginning, you know, and the shade that Tyler threw was just, I mean, listen, just ice cold shade, man. We talked about this, so don't turn your head to the side. It's a highlighter popping. Like, don't do that.
Time out. In my defense, for those of you who have worked with me, which is all of you practically, I'll be in my own world in auditions. Like, I'll be gone. I'll be zoned out. And so I understand where Dustin's coming from, and he is right that it was very but it wasn't intentional. It was that, you know, I've already established relationships. So I'm very like, oh, hey, Taylor's over here, I'm going to talk to her. Or Marcus is over here, I'm going to talk to him, whatever the case may be. So it was very just in my own world and doing what I normally do. Dustin Kemp.
So,
but I will say that I would have to say that was kind of the same for me, as well as just getting to know people and kind of establishing those relationships, because TTC is such a
huge family, and so being like the new guy or the new person in the room is a little bit intimidating because it's like, oh, these people already know each other and they're over here talking. And so when you come to like, you know, the first company meeting and all that, it's like, well, who do I talk to? Luckily, I had Andrew with me at the time. But I will say that Brittany Green was the very first person to reach out to me via Facebook. And she said some very kind things about how talented I was. And then at our first company meeting, Taylor was like, I'm so excited to be your best friend. And in my mind, I was like, girl, we just not gonna be best friends. But it turns out I was wrong.
Yep.
So I have a little follow-up question for Dustin. Do you remember that work day that you came to? Do you remember what my playlist was? I think I took you by surprise is the reason why I was asking.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, I try not to make assumptions. You know, I didn't know what I was expecting, but I was like, oh, this my right here. Like, this is I can't remember, but I remember like looking at you and being like, who the hell is this guy? Like, this is my music. But that's what made, man, Workday. First of all, I am not one with hammer and nails, but that's what made Workday so special because the music was good. So.
And you were really good with floral arrangements, we learned.
Benjamin ain't here to defend himself, so we're not gonna.
Do you remember? Do you remember the name of the fake flower shop?
I don't know if it was Nacho Flowers or
Nacho
something.
Flowers.
Well, Dustin, I'm not one with a hammer and nails either, darling. I believe in paying people to do the job. So when I show up to work day, give me a paintbrush. I'll paint something. I'll move some things. But hammer and nail, I could never.
Yeah, we know.
Diva burn.
Brittany had more, right, Dana? She had luck.
Oh yeah, there's
oh, no, sorry, Rodney.
So I want to kind of circle back to y'all's past. Y'all both mentioned singing on stage, but in a different capacity than theater. So what would be the biggest differences for both of you in performing on a stage in front of people as just your voices or an instrument versus the acting piece and dancing thrown in? What's the biggest differences there?
For me, I don't know if there is much a difference because a lot of what I do is very that. I would say that it's the biggest difference, I guess, is that I'm not a particular character, but I still believe that in a performance you have to act and perform. That's the word. And so I would say that's the biggest difference is that I'm not a particular character. Like I don't have a personality. I'm just very myself times 50 million. But there's still a message that the song has that I'm trying to convey to the audience. And so I bring all the aspects of what I've been trained and what I've learned to do over the years to that performance. So they're more similar than they are different for me.
I would say that, you know, with my first show, just being Little Shop of Horrors, I learned a lot about myself. So with my band, you know, there were some things that were very strict. You know, a lot of times I felt like that I had boundaries. And this may sound corny, but I'm just being honest. I found my voice singing Audrey 2's part because I got to squall. I got to be raw, and Adrienne didn't put me in a box. She just let me do what I wanted to do and sing how I wanted to sing. And so, even though I was backstage with that mic, like I had 100 million people watching me. And so, and also the difference is the vulnerability. Like, you know, we all have, you know, we have individual mics, and so I'm not, you know, you cough or you sneeze, like it's all being captured. And so being in a band, you know, I could blend in with the drums. If I sang a wrong note, I could just squall it. But like, you know, it's being in front of people that are just watching you every single thing. When I was on that bench, I would do small things and someone would say, I saw you do this or I saw you do that. So I was very vulnerable. But honestly, you know, there's not a bunch of musicians playing behind me, you know, with loud amps and things like that. So your voice is really more stripped than anything. So I would say that is the major difference. And I felt like more of a performer, even though I was not on stage when I was singing. I was backstage and I was still giving it 137% because I feel like that's what the part needed. So it is very different in that I felt more naked, more exposed, which helps me to sing harder. So, yeah.
That's funny you say that. I remember telling Adrian, like, my biggest problem in my first show was I don't have a guitar or a microphone to hold on to or something. What do I do with my hands? I don't know what to do with my hands. She said, act. So, I appreciate
crazy.
that.
But I want to touch on what Dustin said, and it honestly ties to that, Dana. What Dustin and what Tyler said when you guys are talking about like performing with the band. And yes, there's a vulnerability to that. But what I'm so looking forward to seeing you both in Talk Everlasting is you both are being stripped of a performative quality on stage. You know, Dustin, with you just kind of having your own solo concert backstage in Little Shop. And then, you know, Tyler, with you as Frankenfurter, both of you have been these very performative characters. And with Tuck Everlasting, you two are being stripped of that. And you are becoming these very real and raw people. And just like seeing what you guys have done so far and the read-throughs, the scene work that we've done with Dustin and like you and the rest of the talks is really beautiful, and I'm excited for everybody to get to see what you guys are going to do with the show, because it's totally different than how our audience has seen you before.
Yeah, and you have to show up, Tyler, because I've not been very good understudy.
I'll be there, I promise.
Good.
I had two, before we go on the next question, I had two jaw drop moments so far at the theater company. And the first one was when Tyler Lewis, I believe it was the first year, Rocky 3, Adrian?
Yeah.
Yep. When you did the riff on I'm going home. And I remember sitting there and I was just like, it was just a moment like that. I know Dana said he had his moment, and Dustin, not knowing you and not being in Little Shop, and then just literally hearing that you were talking about that rawness that you had. I was sitting there, and the very first time I saw Little Shop of Horrors, and that rawness and that soul that you had, I was just like, Adrian gets on me all the time because when I go to shows, I either have the biggest smile or my eyes are wide open. And she always notices, and she's like, you laughed the whole time you did this. And I mean, my jaw was just like, so those are the
like
two moments exactly. I'm just a child taking it in, and those. So for me, those were just two memorable moments I've had. And so anyway, just had to interject.
Hey.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay,
Well,
Rodney, what's
I'll lead into a question then. Oh,
What did you say?
okay, yeah.
I said, what's your memorable moment of me? I need to hear that.
No, I do remember the one that Dana was talking about, where you had us holding on to that note for forever in Rocky Horror, because I was on top of that scaffolding and I had positioned myself where I was kind of hanging off of the rail, and whenever you were like, take a deep breath, I was like, I'm gonna pass out and fall on the stage, and it's gonna hurt. So yeah, that was probably mine as well. So
And there may be a little clip of that somewhere that I think I saw, and I like I was like, holy, yeah. Thank you for making us do that, Tyler.
Of course.
Well, so leading to a question from Shiloh Barty. How are you both just so amazing? She wants to know.
First of all, shout out to Shiloh. She's my little angel. She's my biggest fan, and I'm hers. But I don't actually. So fun fact, although I'm a very confident person, I'm actually very insecure about my art and my voice and my acting. So I actually don't believe that I'm that amazing. Like I hear it all the time, but I still struggle to actually believe it, and I talk about that all the time too. And I can't answer why. But yeah, that's why I don't do a lot, or like people are telling me like, oh, go audition for American Idol and all these like TV shows, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but no. And that's because of my insecurities of my abilities.
And you also know you're better suited for the Great British Bake Off, right?
Huh.
So.
I would say so. I'm just like Tyler in that regard. I remember the first song I sang. It was in church. It was Yes, Jesus Loves Me, and so I kept getting more solos. And the choir director, who was the pastor's wife, she gave me another solo, and I think I was 8, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna really do this. I'm gonna really do this. 8 years old. And I had the microphone, and the song was called "Trouble Don't Last Always." And I riffed and ran, not good, not well. It was terrible. It was terrible, child. And my mom was sitting there on the front row, and she put her head down. She don't think I remember that. My mom was just like, y'all, it was the worst. I was just, it was terrible. And so sometimes I still wonder if I still have that little boy voice, and people are just putting on airs, like people are just like, you did good. And so I do. Sometimes I do feel like, are people just like being like, good job, Dustin? No. Like, yeah, let him have a show or two. I do feel like that sometimes, because I will always be the little boy who sang at that old Baptist church in Cedar Lane, Texas, riffing and running. I'm still up there riffing and running somewhere. And the pastor's wife was like, woo, little Michael Jackson. That's not what she meant. That's not what she was. She was really being shady, but she was sweet. She still is a sweet person. I wonder if she still thinks about that moment. I think about it all the time. So, I think that it is an insecurity, but, I also believe that, like Tyler, I've been blessed and fortunate to have a gift, and I'm a little insecure about it sometimes because it's special to me. Like I think like I've heard Tyler, I could fangirl on Tyler all day long. I watched his Hardcore Dynamics videos before I even knew him, but our voices are very unique. Tyler has a very unique voice. I have a very strange, scratchy, unique voice, and so sometimes I don't always feel like it's amazing. Sometimes it's so different that I'm like, what? And it's also very Southern too, so it's kind of strange. So yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. Did we skip one? I'm sorry, Danny. No, you go for it.
Let's go.
All right.
Here's an order of questions. Mike goes there.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Alrighty. This is from Carrie Kemp, and she says, as queer men of color, what's been a surprising challenge and a surprising blessing navigating the theater world?
Yeah, we went real hard with that one.
Mm-hmm. So,
she also sends her love to you both.
I love Carrie. So for me, being queer is, first off, I mean, like I said, there's so many things so many places we could go, and we don't have the time. Tyler knows, like being Black and being growing up as a boy, and being different, like, that in and of itself was hard enough. I think that, like I said, I'm really new to the theater scene, and I just always hope that whatever role I get, it's a role that's based off of merit or my talent as an actor, and not to be oh, the gay one. Now I don't mind playing like shout out to Greg, what I'm saying? I want to be able to play all kinds of roles, but I think that so all I can base things on is my experience in the theater company with this short time that I've been there, and I feel like I have no limits. I honestly feel like if I do a good job, at an audition, maybe I'll get the part. So I don't feel like I'm placed in a box, and that's what I love about this company, is that I don't have to feel like I don't have to be one way or the other. I can play on my more macho types, and I'm maybe able to tap into that femme side, because it's in me. Like it's all inside. Look at him, he a mess. But, so I would say the blessing is not feeling like I have to be put in a box. That's what the blessing is of being a queer man in theater, which I have never said before in my life, which is good. Happy Pride Month.
I would say that the biggest struggle for me, kind of going back, is again just being put in that box of this is your type, especially with the aesthetic that I present, and or not knowing where to put me, because I walk into the room or to an audition room and look like this sometimes, or I don't, and so they're like, what do we do with it? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but like, what do we do with it? Like, there's just so many. Do we cast it in a woman role? Do we cast it in a male role? Like, what do we do? So I would say that's the biggest challenge for me is, and I always question whenever I go to an audition that isn't at TTC or some place that knows me well. I'm always like, well, do I wear makeup? Do I not? And I feel like the fact that I have to question that is not okay. But it's one of those things that is what it is. However, like kind of going back off to piggyback off of what Dustin said, that's what I adore the most about TTC and what Adrian does, is that TTC allows us to have no limits and to be limitless and to do whatever our heart's desires. A specific example was Little Shop, which I wasn't in. And that's no shade, but it was a scheduling conflict, I assume.
Didn't live
but, I was allowed, and I put it down, with the hopes that it would be okay, but Adrian allowed me to audition to be an urchin. And so to have someone be like, maybe this person could play this role, and allotted me the opportunity to just, be seen in that role, is something that I wish all theaters would do. And so that's why TTC is very special to me, is because I've been allowed to be myself and show the world that, if y'all want to put me on stage as a soccer, then do that. If you want to put me on stage as Meta Larkin and Newsies, then do that. But if you also want me to play Jack Kelly, I'll do that too.
One, I want to say that if there could have been 4, and if you had been in town and able to do that show, that would have been an epic group of voices.
Yes.
It would have been insane. But I do kind of want to segue, because we're talking about this, and this is something that I think I've struggled with ever since I've started, having control over what our seasons look like and how we pick shows. We've always had this issue of, there's these wonderful musicals out there, Hairspray, Ragtime, Aida, which we did anyways a really long time ago, and we're not going to talk about it. We did have a black Aida. That's all I'm going to say. She was amazing. But there's these shows that I hesitate to include as part of our season, because it feels like I don't have the resources. And you don't want to commit to a show that, requires, if it's a show about a race, about segregation in Hairspray, or about literal hate crimes in Ragtime, there's no wiggle room with casting. Like the race is essential to what that show is about. So, but you hesitate to choose these shows because you obviously can't cast them incorrectly. But and and I also want to caveat this with, I'm not asking y'all to solve my problems with diversity. Like, that's on me and that's on our community, but it is something that I think about all the time. It's like, I want to pick these shows. So you hope that, okay, I'll pick these shows and maybe the right people will show up, or they'll see that we're doing these shows and they'll come. But then what if they don't? And then, oh no, we're in a really big pickle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you guys to feel the need to solve my problem, but I would love to hear what you think, because I would love more diversity on our stage. Would love it.
I think that your fears of choosing, for lack of a better word, fears of choosing shows that deal with like race issues and stuff like that is a genuine concern to have. Like you said, especially when you don't have many Black and brown faces that come through the door at TTC, and I don't think that particularly attributes to you or the theater itself. That's just more for me. It comes with, we don't really have a lot of representation for ourselves on stage or in film as it is. And so a lot of the times in our communities, or in our community, we don't think that, we're able to do it or have the ability to do it because we haven't seen it done. And so to have shows, just to go use Wicked as an example, to have their first Black Glinda like a year or so ago, like Wicked's been on stage for so many years, and for a Black woman, pardon me?
It took that long?
Right. Like, to have your first Black Glinda, and she was an understudy, so she just happened to have to go on that night. Like, it wasn't a permanent position. And so, but it was a big deal. But for it to be on that long and then finally see someone that looks like us be in such a powerful role was a great thing. But it's like, we still aren't seeing that unless you have the Once on This Islands where it's all Black cast, or you have Hairspray where it has to be, Black and white or what have you. And so I feel like the biggest step that you can take is just community outreach, I guess. And just to see what the people want. What are they saying? Are there any Black and brown people who know about TTC and know the opportunities that are provided to them there, know about the close-knit family and all of that? Because I'm sure that there are a bunch of people who want to be on stage and feel like they aren't awarded the opportunity. And so it's just about getting out there and letting them know, like, here's a home that you can come to that we want you at. It's not a home that, you can come to and it's like, oh, well, we have to deal with you. Like, we are searching for you. Mm-hmm. And so that, I feel like that'll help a lot in that regard.
Yeah, I echo, I agree with what Tyler's saying. I think, so when I posted pictures of Little Shop, there were, like even Black students that I interact with that didn't even know. They're like, wait, there's a theater company? And I said, yeah, and I think it's that exposure. And that's why I like that we, from what I've seen, that every show in the past has been, blasted on Facebook, and needs to, in Instagram, we have to keep doing things like that, because there are pockets of people who probably just don't know what's going on, and if they knew, they would definitely be a part of it, So.
Marketing guy, can you take notes?
Yeah.
I have a question from the lovely Miss Cynthia Bradford.
Hey!
Both of you know. We talked a little bit earlier, some icons kind of got thrown around, but honestly, what are some icons both in and out of theater that you two looked up to growing up? And what artists might you suggest to introduce to her middle schoolers?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a tough one. She's good.
If you need a second to think about it, this is funny. So last week's guest, Cameron Mosier, essentially wanted he had the same question. And since they made out all the time, it totally makes sense that they would have the same sort of question. But yeah, Cameron also, who is someone you looked up to and why, on stage and off? See, they're perfect together. She didn't need you three guys.
Oh my gosh. Another burn?
I would say that on stage, I've really been interested in or recently, and I don't know why it took me this long, but like Lily is White and the work that she's done over the years is sick. Whom else? I kind of hate to bring it back to Alex Newell, but I think what he's doing in terms of people who look like us is very important. But not only that, like Shoshana Bean, Cynthia Erivo. It's crazy to think that there are all these talented artists out there who don't really get seen. Or who's another? Adrienne Warren in Tina. She's sick. Like the first time I saw her on stage was when Bring It On was on tour, and they came to the Hobby Center. And that's the first time that I saw her work, and I was amazed then. And then to see that show go on to be on Broadway, and then to see her go on to do other shows and be in the West End, and then come and bring Tina to Broadway. And I'm like, girl, how do you sing that role 8 shows?
Not even singing. How do her legs withstand the dancing that she does 8 shows a week?
Like,
her dancing is ridiculous.
It's crazy. I would say in terms of offstage icons, well, technically she's kind of on stage, but Beyonce is my dream. The day I meet her, y'all can go ahead and get me a pine box, close it on, throw it on top. It's done. It's a wrap. I would say, and this may be cliche, but Cynthia Bradford. I love her with my entire whole heart. Her confidence and the way she carries herself, and sometimes she may not have the best day, but the fact that she's so vulnerable and open about that on social media, and she's just an inspiration to just go and be yourself and be great. And Adrienne Shanae Dobson, like the work that she does at TTC, and see her compassion and her drive to always want it to be the best, and to do what she knows talent can do, and to see her, because I'm not a kid fan, but to see her compassion for children is insane. And I'm like, I don't understand how she does it, but it's a true inspiration. And I'm like, man, I hope one day that I can have the same compassion for children as Adrienne does.
Oh, that's real sweet.
I guess I would say, growing up, there weren't many Broadway actors that I followed, but I again, Tyler and I have similar tastes, and I'm not trying to copy him, but the first time I heard Cynthia Erivo sing, it brought me to tears, and so, but not to jump across her, but Alex Newell, I heard Alex, what's that song? Mama will provide, and I could hear Tyler singing that song, like, because I think he would have heard that song. But I didn't know who Alex was a few years ago when I heard that song, and I watched it 6 times back to back, because he had this voice, and he didn't look like every male actor. He was different, and he was comfortable with wearing these dresses and flowers and stuff, and I was like, who is this dude living his truth so vibrantly? And there's one performer rather. So there is a troupe called Step Africa, and they tour all over the world actually. And my fraternity brother Christopher Bryant was a member of Step Africa. They would show you different forms of dance and step, and its origins coming from Africa. They're a brilliant troupe of people. Chris Bryant, he recently passed away, like right after Little Shop ended, and Christopher was one of the most amazing performers. I mean, 40 years old and had the energy of a 12-year-old. He had the spirit, just that it just transports you. Every time you watch him, you're just like, man, how is this guy dancing like this? How is he stepping like this? And when he died, I told myself that I would become more serious about, my craft, because leaving Austin and coming to College Station was hard. And I didn't know, I felt like I was just kind of diminishing as a performer. And so coming into Little Shop, and then Chris texted me he texted me the Sunday before he passed and just told me that he loved me and he was proud of me because a lot of our friends had come to see Little Shop. And so I definitely look up to him. Now, off stage, just like Tyler, Beyonce is just the queen of my life. And honestly, it's crazy because it's not because she's just so amazing and fabulous, but I listen to Beyonce. I like to listen to her music stripped of any instruments, just so I can like see she did this run, she did this riff. I think that she's the ultimate performer. I love John Legend. John Legend is. I think that I probably steal from him. Like I don't perform as myself when I sing John Legend songs. I sing John Legend songs as John Legend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's so many. I could go down a list of people, but in terms of who I would turn the cheering zone to, gosh, that's also tough. What have I been listening to lately? I will say my foundation is gospel music, and the Clark sisters are, to me, I think if you want to learn blending and you want to learn harmonies, listen to the Clark sisters. The Clark sisters are Beyonce's favorite. They are all my favorites. They love the Clark sisters, and I grew up listening to the Clark sisters, and I think even I learned. I don't have perfect pitch. I have relative pitch. I learned how to sing because of the Clark sisters.
But the Clark sisters harmonies are hard. Like I was with some friends yesterday who are also singers, and we were singing "Name It, Claim It, It's Yours," and the beginning part, that part, I was like. And I'm a person, like, harmony is in my blood. I can hear it, and I'm like, cool. And I was like, yep, I ain't got it. I'm out.
Incredible, man.
Who's next?
I've got a couple that are in here somewhere. We've bounced around a little bit. Camilla Besselberg wants to know from Tyler, who or what is your style inspiration?
Ooh, that's
Taylor Christensen.
I wish, but no. Oof. Like I'm obviously always on social media, but to see a lot of I like to see a lot of people who wear like couture yet everyday fashions, like, and so that's very my inspiration. I can't give a particular person, but I like to see people who like to take very expensive things and make them look like, not make them look, but very expensive things that look like normal people would wear them. I've been trying to get into like this, for lack of a better word, like hobo chic thing, like very Solange, June Ambrose style, where you mix and match patterns.
Mike.
I guess, but like when people have like floral with plaid, and I haven't been able to do it for myself. I see it on others, and I'm like, man, like I really like that, but I haven't been able to do it. But my goal is to just look good, and so I looked at a bunch of fashion blogs and fashion pages and stuff and to see men in the fashion industry who don't really care about what gender clothing they wear. They just want to look good. Oh, what's his name? There's a man in particular. His name is, oh, Jesus.
Dana Martin.
Yeah, probably not.
I can't think of his name, but he's incredible. He's definitely he's skinny, so I can't wear what he wear, but it's the thought that counts.
It is Camilla Besselberg that every time we're in a show together says, "Oh, girlfriend, those eyebrows, come here, let me fix that for you." So yes, your videos are extremely helpful, sir.
So you guys talked a little bit about, how it's maybe the theater company is not easy to find for whatever reason. Maybe it's marketing. David Manuel wants to know the series of fortunate events that brought you to TTC.
For me, during my time at Sam Houston State, they did the Rocky show with Blake Jackson played Dr. Frankenfurter. His sister Lexi Jackson played Magenta, yada, yada, yada.
What?
And so that was my first introduction to Rocky. And so the first show that I saw, I was like, what is going on? I was really taken aback. And I think it was funny because my theater mom, my high school theater director, when I told her that they were doing it, she's like, you should audition, like, you're perfect for the lead, blah, blah, blah. And so when I Googled it, I was like, this is too much. Like, I don't know what's going on, but this is not for me. And so then I was a resident advisor at the time, and so I had some kids who were in the show. And so then the second time we saw it, I was here for it. I was living. And so then I said that Frank was one of my dream roles, and if there was a theater, whoever did it, that I would audition. And so Andrew Armstrong and I were talking, and he was like, yeah, I think they're going to do it, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. I'll keep you, like, updated. And so then when it was announced, I was like, done. I'm there. Be there, be square. And I decided to be there. And so that, for me, having Andrew kind of introduce me and then me take my own path or create my own path, was it for me. Now Dustin's story is a little different.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little story. Been living in this town for a little while, and I was at home, and I don't know what just behooved me to ask the question. I wonder if any theater is doing Little Shop of Horrors in this town. That's the silliest thing to even ask. But the reason why I asked that question is because I was jaded by the role that was stolen from me when I was 17, George Prince. Okay, I'm always say his name when I say that part. But anyway, I literally Googled, I searched on Facebook, Little Shop of Horrors theater, and pops up auditions for Little Shop of Horrors that were going to be the next day. And I was like, you lying. And so I honestly, I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what song to pick. I was really, really afraid. So that's when I saw Ty. I was like, I don't know who's gonna try to go for Audrey too. I felt a little cutthroat, but here's my tactic whenever I meet a person for the first time. I try to play hey, how are you doing? Oh, it's nice to meet you. Well, really, I'm sticking my fangs into you. I'm trying to figure out what you all about.
Tell the tea, girl.
But Tyler wasn't going for that. He wasn't going for that. He was like, I'm fine. But anyway, that's how I found the theater company. I random search. Like, there was nothing prompting me. I was like, search for Little Shop of Horrors theater, and it came up, and the rest is history. I just think that's just wild that I searched and auditions were going to be the very next day.
I think it's really funny because, there were some of us who were going for the plant. And whenever we went to, when we went through callbacks and heard you sing, we're like, okay, what's another role I can have?
I swear to God, I literally looked at Rodney, and Rodney looked at me, and we were like, okay, well, I think I could be no. Okay, I got nothing.
I'm never confident until I was I didn't know I got the part until Adrian posted it. I don't, when I go in auditions, I don't care how well I do. I'm just like, we'll see. I never ever want to be that person that's like, yeah, I got that. I mean, I'm not gonna say I ain't been that way sometimes. There have been times I was like, yeah, that's mine. But when I went into Little Shop of Horrors, like, I definitely want to humble myself with this new crowd of people, because I think when you're a director, I can't get into Adrian's mind. She might be looking for something, that I might not have given that part. So, I think that was one lesson for me. I learned that lesson after the auditions, like, always be humble, because you don't know. Like, I think that directors are unpredictable. you never know. You never know what they're gonna do. So
I think it's funny that you say that because just so you know, Dustin, I wanted to be an urchin anyways. But when it came to Rocky 3, like when I was cast, I was real shook because I was not expecting. There were just so many people who, I won't say so many, there were some who came in and I was like, yep, that's it. Yep, he's it. And to see my name on the list, I was like, what has she done? And even throughout the rehearsal process, I was like, over this person? But I guess we made the right decision.
Twice.
Some
I gotta say,
mofos, man, in the theater company, like that's for sure. Like it's just, I mean, Adrian had us all reading different parts, and like I was just looking at everybody like, y'all sound so amazing. Like it was auditions for Little Shop for me were
that Little Shop audition. You know, auditions are always hard, obviously, and they're always really competitive at the theater company. But usually by, you know, a certain point, all right, it's pretty clear to me and you just have to, you know, figure out some other things. Little Shop, I do not remember the last time I agonized because everybody was so good. For every role there, I mean, there were just an absurd, like, abundance of riches when it came to the talent, the vocal talent specifically of that cast was insane.
Yeah.
Does that just suck for you, Adrian?
Yes. Because I'm a people pleaser. Do you know how many times I leave auditions crying? The first one I had to do by myself, you can ask anyone on the Fiddler on the Roof production team, because I cried, and because we had 100 people audition. I just, and it, you know, when these are kids that I know and people that I know, and it's awful. I cry all the time. It's really hard.
Yeah, by the time you got around to this, huh? Great, Dana. I think we only have a couple more questions for you two. And I say two. I don't know, there's something about, you know, how do you decide to riff and where, Tyler? That's from Miss Catherine Thomas. How do you decide to riff and where?
I get this question all the time. And the answer is always the same. I never know what I'm going to do when I do it. Usually a lot of the riffs that I do just happen, and it's like it's just a feeling of, it has to be a moment of an extended moment, I guess, to where I can add a riff, because I don't riff. I'm not a fast riffer like Jasmine Sullivan or Ariana. Like I don't riff that fast. It's just not in me. And riffing, to my understanding, has to do a lot with the speed of your vibrato. And I don't have a fast vibrato, which I appreciate, because goat vibratos are not it. But usually I just kind of do whatever comes to my mind, and if it lands, great. If it doesn't, then I kind of resort to, what's her name, Natalie Wise, and her breaking down the riffs. And so my mindset is always to just slow it down, see where we want to go, and kind of do it that way. But I've also heard the method of seeing the notes on the staff in your mind, and so I use that method sometimes. I can't explain how to do it, but I do my best.
Reading notes?
Listen. This is not the
I
time
love you.
to be reading me. For those of you who don't know what just happened, I can't read music, and Adrian just read me for it.
That's a diva burn if I see one.
I love you so much. The things that you do with your voice blow my mind. And so during Joseph, when you'd had to miss a couple of vocal rehearsals, and I was like, it's okay, here's your score, and you're, all right, what do I do with it? I was like, how do you do what you do and not read music?
Well, because being in band, the instrument does the work for you. I don't necessarily have to think of, like, I can read music in terms of like rhythms, But again, playing clarinet, it's like, oh, here's the fingering, and I know it's gonna be most of the time perfect, like, because that's what the instrument is designed to do. But when it comes to the voice, can't help you. And so that was my biggest setback, in my opinion, when I was in hardcore. So that's why I liked to come to rehearsal prepared, because if we learned music at rehearsal, it frustrated me so much because I feel like I was behind. And I'd rather everybody else feel like they were behind.
Good answer.
Dustin, you've had a riff or two that we've heard on stage.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm, gosh, Tyler and I are twins. So for me, it's a feeling. I'm not much into riffing. I'll tell you. Sometimes I'll do a riff. I'm walking around the house. I'm like, damn, I wish that was recorded. That was amazing. But to me, and I had to come to terms with the fact that my strength comes from, sustained notes and my tone. Sometimes I envy people who can do, riffs and runs, but I realize that's just not who I am as a singer. I think that what I give comes in the texture of my voice. And some of my favorite artists, they're not really riffers, like John Legend can riff, but you're not going to see John Legend, going up and down the thing. But I like Tyler, I try to envision, the note, and I also drag I'll drag a phrase out. And I also learned from, I back in Austin, I would ride around in the car with my best friend Josh, and he always let me be Beyonce because there's no other person that I'm going to be in the car with him. Tyler and I are probably gonna have to have a fight about that. Blood will probably be shed. But when I sing with Josh, we always do riffs and runs, and we don't challenge each other, but it just kind of just flows. It has to be natural. You'll never see me do hear me do an insane riff unless I truly feel it. So it's like seeing that next note, because child, I've done some runs and they didn't necessarily land where they're supposed to. but when you do that, the cheat is to like growl at the end. So it's like it's an emotion,
My cheat would be to ask Carrie.
Yeah, if I do like a really insane run, it's probably not originated by me. I probably learned it somewhere and just made it work for whatever I was doing.
Love it. All right, Dana, what's next?
Well, we have a couple of segments left. We are running a little long. I don't know. It's up to you. We got 3 things to do. We could probably knock them out. We'll just knock them out. So, Dear Daddy. Ugh.
We're gonna skip Dear Daddy.
Okay, thank goodness.
And we're gonna move that to After Dark.
That's not any better.
I do want to go ahead with the Roger Pine breakdown. I think we're ready.
You got it.
So the show that I gave Roger Pine this week, Dustin and Tyler, if you're unfamiliar, Roger Pine knows zilch about musical theater. So I'm giving him the picture of like the album cover and saying, hey, tell me what the show's about. And this week it's Promises, Promises.
Sweet. All right. Are y'all ready? Here comes the Roger Pine breakdown.
Okay, Promises, Promises. I know nothing about the show. I've never heard of it except that we have it on the wall backstage at Theater Company. I'm going to go with it's a madcap, Three's Company style, wacky off the wall comedy with relationships and stuff and love triangles. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I know nothing about Promises, Promises.
The best part is, y'all, he's right. He's like, pretty much nailed it. It's like this madcap, like 1960s office romance where the girl is having an affair with her married boss. But then there's like this lowly guy that works out at the office who's in love with her, and they end up together because it's a musical. But the fun thing about Promises, Promises is that it's all set to the music of Burt Bacharach. So like, you get when you fall in love, like that is a beautiful duet on stage. It's so silly. Like there's a TTC cameo where someone asked for the turkey lurkey. I guarantee, who knows what the turkey lurkey is?
Turkey lurkey is.
Okay, thank you. It's just like, oh yay, this iconic, do you know what the turkey, oh, shut up, Dana. This iconic dance that actually Randy Wilson used to post. We post it, yes, every Thanksgiving we would post it, and we got to do that dance on stage, and it was so much fun. We posted that video as a TTC cameo. But yeah, Roger's totally right. Zany, like Mad Men style costumes, love triangles. It's just silly. There's a song about basketball, like weird show. So much fun to do. It's a great time.
All right, so our last segment for the evening, pretty much, is our Jennifer Riley's fun fact. Old Jennifer Riley, stage manager at TTC, several occasions. I will share my screen, maybe. And we always love her fun facts.
Oh, I think you have to.
Diva Dads, happy episode number 5. So before I tell you the fun fact, I have a question for you. What do you think the state sport of Maryland is? Now don't say it out loud, but after this segment, I would love for y'all to share your answers because I'm interested to hear what you came up with. But I will go on and tell you that the state sport of Maryland is jousting, which is fantastic. And that is the fact for today. In case you were wondering, the state sport of Texas is rodeo. So sending good vibes to all the Diva Dads and our guests and all the listeners and watchers out there. And I look forward to this week's episode and to speaking with all of y'all soon. Talk to you later. Bye.
Dude, jousting? Oh,
I was gonna say badminton.
heck yeah, dude.
I was gonna say bocce ball.
It's Maryland, yeah, bocce ball.
Before
Awesome.
we transition into just going on to the saying goodbye and all that, so like this last however long we've talked, like hour and a half or whatever, was really great and wonderful talking to you two. But you know, one thing we didn't really get into, and I'm not saying we have to right now, but we didn't get into kind of what's going on today. And I was thinking about it kind of over the last few minutes about, you know, that's why we wanted to talk to you two now. We wanted to kind of give you guys a chance to talk about, you know, what was happening in this world, how it affected you, how it affects your journey in theater, and how it affects your journey with us. And you know, and the guys that I talked about this earlier this week of, you know, what is our role in wanting to do Diva Dads? Like, do we do all this lighthearted fun stuff? Like, is that pretending like stuff isn't happening around us? Or, you know, do we do that because we need to laugh and like talk about, you know, silly lighthearted things, and because that is important. But what I would like to do, and I would like to host some form of like live talk. Like I'd love for like you guys, either we Zoom or we meet at the theater, and basically, you know, we can stream live from Facebook, and I want to talk, like I want to have a real conversation with you guys. And again, and something else that I talked to you guys about, dads, and to Dustin and Tyler, is it's not your burden, it's not your responsibility to speak on behalf of your race, of your, you know, your identity. It's not your job to be a representative of the theater company, you know, as a Black person who's part of our family. It's not your job. But I think now it's not so much that we're wanting to make that your job, but we want to hear you, because everywhere people need to be heard. And more than anything else, the lessons that I'm learning this week is to, well, I say this as I'm not shutting up right now, is to shut up and listen. And so, you know, tonight maybe wasn't that night to get into a lot of that heavier stuff, but I'd like to do that with you guys very soon.
Absolutely. You know, and like I said, we don't have to go deep, you know, tonight. But I will say that I'll say very, very, very quickly that you know, you mentioned that it wasn't, you know, our job or responsibility. One thing that I've come to learn, that I'm coming to understand about myself, is that protest looks different, and education looks different for everybody. You know, I was talking to someone about how, you know, I feel very numb and not wanting to go out and protest And a mentor said to me, it's not your turn. She's like, if you feel numb, it's not your turn. Your turn is to heal and to take care of yourself. And as she said that, I completely agree with it. But the one thing that I do have is a voice, and any opportunity that I have to express myself and my feelings and thoughts on what's going on, and hopefully educate, others. I try now. Sometimes I'm cheeky on Facebook, and I say things that ruffle people's feathers, and I think I've done a really good job at draining the swamp, so to speak. All of my high school friends have either unfriended me, unfollowed me, blocked me, something like that. But I think that this place, I'm going to be in College Station for a while, and so the theater company is home, and I think that it's important that we do have lighthearted conversations, but we also have a time where we reflect, and that's what is so important, is that we reflect on our lives, because we're all impacted by each other in some way, shape, or form. It's not just okay, white people, let's follow the black people. You know what I'm saying? It's like we lead and follow each other, and I think that's the most important thing. And right now, it's not necessarily white people's turn to to educate. It is our turn to say, hey, this is what's going on, and it's not a mean thing. That's the thing about education. I think the people kind of grunt about it's like, I gotta learn something new. It's like, be happy, be lifelong learners. This is an opportunity for you to learn something that I also think that it's uncomfortable. I see ignorance sometimes as a blanket, and we love our favorite blanket. And then when someone starts to unravel it by truth, it's like, you're making me feel naked here. I don't like that, and so we try to hold on to the threads that have comforted us for so long. And I think that's what the problem is. It's not saying that other races are stupid or they're dumb. It's just saying, this is something that you might not have learned. And here's an opportunity for you to listen to other Americans first, like other Americans explain their experience. And so that's what I've been trying to do. And my favorite word is perspective. I use the word all the time. I'm not trying to tell someone where to be or put someone in their place. I just try to share perspective. So I would love an opportunity to talk about that. But a quick update. This week I've just been tired. I've been extremely tired. And so coming to rehearsal, at Zach's, those things are helpful for me, because I don't see anybody in my life as an enemy. And I mean, I use my words very carefully. Anyone in my life. Those people who are not in my life, like, that's a different conversation. But the people in my life, the people at the theater company, are people that I want to always. I don't feel afraid to say how I'm feeling, and people don't ask me questions about how I'm doing with and just to do it, just to be nice. I've genuinely had people around College Station, but more specifically people like McClever Shoes, and Brittany Green, asking me like seriously, like, what's up? You don't have to answer, but just know that I'm here. And that's what I love. People who are just saying, I'm here, because sometimes the burden falls on us to have to always say, I'm doing okay, or I'm not doing okay. Sometimes you just don't want to answer that question. You just want to just be. So sorry, I'm rambling, but that's just kind of what's been on my mind. And I look forward to having a conversation about it.
For me, I agree a lot with what Dustin said, and I feel like that conversation in particular has to be an entity of its own, because it's just so much teaching and learning and understanding that has to be had in that moment. And I do appreciate the platform that Diva Dads is and what it's doing, and the intention behind tonight's episode. But again, with that in particular, there's just so much that has to be digested, that I don't think an hour and a half, however long we've been going, would do that moment justice. Mm-hmm. But what I do think is important is just having those conversations, especially with people who aren't affected like we are. And I have had so many of my white friends that have reached out, like Dustin said, and asked how I was doing, how are you feeling, and it's been a lot. And I had the similar feeling of just being very numb to everything that's going on. And I've had Black friends who are out here, as they say, being revolutionaries, and I appreciate that. But for me, there's just so much happening for me to just be out there trying to be a revolutionary with them, and I appreciate their efforts, and I say go forth and be great. But there's just so much understanding that I need to have with myself and my journey and my place in this world. Not only that, but I've had, just to use Haley Cochran, for example, was the very first person to reach out to me and was just explaining that she, was teaching her children about racism in this country and what it means to be a voice for those who don't have it. And that she was just checking in, and that she will continue to, instill their privilege in them, but to use it in a way for others. So that was very important to just hear the heartwarming message that she had, and then to have others, Brittany Green, I think Maddie Sakala has reached out as well, but a ton of people who are close to me, who don't look like me, who have just cared about how I was doing, how I was feeling during this time. Adrian has also done the same. And so it's just meant a lot. And so, yeah, I think it is very important that we have those conversations on the right, in the right way, so that nothing is lost in translation, nothing overshadows the moment, any of that.
And again, thank y'all. Like Adrian, thank you. All of y'all, like the Diva Dads platform, like this is therapeutic for me, honestly, because there've been some really uncertain times, and like Tyler said, Maddie came over and sang with me, like that. She has no idea how good that made me feel, and they were genuine smiles when we were singing, just because we were just happy to be singing with each other, and all of these relationships were birthed from the theater company because there's genuine people over there. So I thank y'all so much, and Tyler, thank you. I love Tyler to death, and that's all I have to say about that. So
Awesome.
We all love you guys too. So
100%. And we're glad we had the opportunity, especially in this time, to celebrate everything about you, from your past, your history, who you are, who you want to be. I love you guys, 100%.
You ready to kick us into?
Yes, we need to go into Dads After Dark. That's what needs to happen. So we appreciate everyone tuning in this week again. Next week, same time, same place. Oh, who's our guest next week? We already know that, don't we?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe not. It might just be a surprise.
Michelle Green's on standby.
Okay.
Michelle Campbell Green is on standby. She's ready for us whenever we're ready.
Sounds good. Whew.
All right, well, signing off. Good to see y'all.
Thank you. See y'all in Dads After Dark.